a number of leaders you're going to hear from in the next few minutes. This region has, experienced an awful lot of, economic difficulties, as has the rest of the country over these last 2 months. But the one thing I've been very proud about is how in this region over the last 2 months, we have maintained numbers that have been much lower than other places around the country and kept people as safe as we can. As many of our businesses wanted to open up and go from red to yellow, which we were given that designation last week by Governor Wolf and his team. But as we move forward in this, the concern is offices, as we open up retail, as we open up childcare, that we need to make sure that in a dense urban setting, which we are in the city of Pittsburgh and Oakland and other places, that we make sure that there's a great level of cooperation in trying to keep the distance and the mitigating factors that we have heard. We're grateful that we meds and meds and folks in this region have taken to the advice that people like Dr. Bogen and our medical professionals have given us, and thus far our numbers have reflected that. But as we open up next week, we want to make sure that the large, dense buildings that we have in downtown Pittsburgh continue to operate in a safe manner. And I know that'll be a challenge with thousands of people who will be coming into downtown Pittsburgh. So we want to continue to obviously have people work at home where they can. That's part of the governor's order. Continue all the physical distancing and all the things that we've heard about. So you're going to hear from a number of folks throughout this announcement, and we want to make sure throughout this week as we prepare, we continue to get the message out to everybody that we need to continue that level of cooperation and working together that we've been so successful with over these last couple of months. So let me begin starting with the leader at the health department, Dr. who really has done a great job of bringing everybody together at the health level, getting good sound advice out to people, and allowing Allegheny County and the region all together to keep our numbers low, again, compared to other places. So Dr. Bogen, if you would, talk a little bit about where we go starting next week.
Thank you so much, Executive Fitzgerald. As Allegheny County reopens under yellow, we really expect to see an increase in cases as people come together, but we really want to keep that to a bare minimum rise, right? We want to make sure that we stay where we've been or very close to where we've been, and we can all do that by limiting the spread of the virus in the ways we've been talking about for the last few months. So the most important is, if you're sick, please stay home. Call your healthcare provider or the health department COVID-19 hotline for information about testing. We do have expansion of testing in our community. Employers, please tell your employees to stay home if they're sick. Continue to limit our trips out for essential goods and services only. And if you do go out, wear a mask, avoid public places, and keep at least 6 feet away from other people. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, or use hand sanitizer. Cover your mouth and nose with your elbow when coughing or sneezing. Clean, frequently touch surfaces often. We really have done an incredible job these last 2 months with all of the changes we've made in our routines, staying home. But as we begin to reopen, we need to keep that up. So, and from our end at the County Health Department, we will continue to be following all of our cases and doing case investigation, as well as extensive contact tracing, which we think has been an important part of our. Thank you very much.
Okay, next we're going to hear from Congressman Doyle. Appreciate the great leadership, Congressman, that you've provided in Washington representing us. You certainly represent the city of Pittsburgh and a lot of the areas where a lot of folks will be going back to work next week. The robotics and the IT and all the corporate headquarters that we have here. So wanted to have Congressman Doyle say a few words as well. Congressman?
Well, thanks, Rich. And first, I want to thank you for your leadership and the work of the County Health Department, and also our business community in Pittsburgh and the individuals that make Allegheny County a great county. We've made these tremendous strides, and we've come as far as we have because we have all worked together, and we have listened to the medical experts and made sure that we're practicing these mitigation techniques that the CDC tells us are so important. What we don't want to do is go backwards. We've come this far, and now that we are going from red to yellow, and more people are going to be out and about, it's more important than ever that we practice these mitigation techniques. It's also important on the federal level that we continue to get assistance out to businesses and individuals. And the House of Representatives will be back in Washington either Friday or Tuesday. We're waiting for that phone call to work on a new CARES 2 package that is going to greatly expand the amount of money back to state and local governments, expand unemployment compensation, and help our business community. We know that the PPP program, while it worked for some businesses, for a lot of businesses, it didn't work. And we're still anxious to make sure we get more money out to these smaller mom and pop types of businesses that are really struggling right now. So on the federal end, we want to continue to get that assistance out to state and local governments, to businesses, to individuals. And then all of us have a personal responsibility as we move forward to practice those mitigation techniques. I also want to commend Governor Wolf. He has been doing this in a phased approach that's based on statistics and science. And if we listen to the medical community and the experts, we're going to get through this. That's most important. And Rich, together as partners with you and Mayor Peduto and the business community to make sure that Allegheny County continues to move forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Congressman. Appreciate that. And the other federal leader in our county, Congressman Lamb, also been very, very instrumental and very active throughout this process. We appreciate your leadership at the federal level as well. And I wanted to have Congressman Lamb, who represents a lot of the suburban parts of Allegheny County, to talk as well. Congressman?
Thank you to the county executive and Dr. Bogen. I think they both have been very decisive leaders and very honest and transparent about the information that we all need to make decisions, and we're lucky to have them here in Allegheny County. If I could just maybe add on a little something to what Congressman Doyle said. The importance of testing and PPE is really only going to increase as we take steps toward reopening. And I think an important goal for us all to keep in mind is not just this question of reopening, but of staying open for the long haul. You know, so I don't want the small business people that I represent to put all the costs of buying PPE and changing their floor plans and all the different things they're going to do, and then have to go back into a shutdown a few months down the road and have to go through that multiple times. And that really comes back to testing. So unfortunately, we haven't seen the federal response that we wanted on testing, but there's some great strides being made by our local health systems, by our state government, by our county government, by some of our municipal governments. And so one of our focuses in Congress in this upcoming bill is really going to be getting money directly to the people that are doing the work of testing on the front lines. So if that's Governor Wolf's new civilian corps, or if it's a group out of one of our universities or Allegheny or UPMC health systems, whatever it is, we need them taking these steps to get out there and test in large numbers. It's already happening in other places around the world, and there's no reason that America has to be behind in the testing race. More testing is more business, and it's going to mean a quicker economic recovery. So that's what we'll be focused on. Thanks.
Thanks, Congressman. Next, I want to have Stefani Pashman, the CEO of the Allegheny Conference. Obviously, a lot of the big employers in downtown Pittsburgh will probably be most affected in how they try to mitigate shift changes, staggering starts, staggering work times, keeping people at home. And I know they've been really very instrumental already in having strategies, having meetings, putting out communiques to their members. They also represent obviously more than just Allegheny County, but a large part of southwestern Pennsylvania, the 10-county region. So I wanted to have Stefani Pashman talk a little bit about and get the word out even more to her members throughout the region as to what they're doing. Stefani?
Thank you, County Executive, not only for your leadership here in Allegheny County, but for on behalf of the entire 10-county region. We are so fortunate to have your partnership, as well as the partnership and leadership of our elected officials, Congressman Doyle, Congressman Lamb. You are such strong advocates for our region, not only during this pandemic, but all the time, and we thank you for that. The business community supports efforts to open our economy in a thoughtful and phased way that allows us, just as you said, to bring people back to work while prioritizing our public health. This has been a very challenging time for everyone in our region, and of course we know for the entire world. But here in our region, we know we have fared better than many other places. We've been able to flatten the curve because of the commitment of all of our people and of all of you to reopen safely and sustainably. And we need to continue to apply what we've learned over these past several weeks. We need to remain vigilant moving forward so we can stay open and move to green. Throughout the pandemic, the Allegheny Conference has made it a priority to keep the broader region informed by providing valuable, up-to-date information about the resources available, where to go for assistance, and where to give assistance. Our commitment to this goal will continue, and we enter this reopening phase of the pandemic. We're going to be launching today a new resource for all called readypittsburgh.com, a curated toolkit offering some of the best advice, direction, guidance, and practices for all to reopen and reopen safely, remaining open while keeping our employees, customers, and neighbors healthy and safe. Moving forward, we will continue to provide insights and information that will help our region reopen and recover. Thank you to all of you, and thank you, County Executive Fitzgerald, for your leadership.
Thanks. And I wanted to obviously bring the mayor in. This is one of the first urban centers in the country to open up. Other states are opening up similar to what we're doing, but in many of those states, there are large cities, their urban are not opened up to the degree we are. So it's really important as the mayor, as the mayor of the heart of the region, the urban core, where so many workers come to in downtown Pittsburgh and Oakland, two of the biggest job centers in the state that are going to be opened up. The largest one being Philadelphia is not going to be opened up this week or next week or who knows for how long. So I know Bill and his team have been great partners. Mayor Peduto with public safety, public works, all the folks have been working over the last couple of months. I know he wants to get a message out there as well to the folks who are going to be descending on in the city over the next in the next few days. Bill.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who's spoken already for not only the leadership that you provided, but working together as a team on this. It's a difficult time for everybody. It's particularly difficult for those that find themselves in marginalized communities and those with small businesses that struggle to continue to exist. We're cognizant of those that are suffering the most and are trying to make decisions in order to be able to minimize those negative impacts to those critical communities. I would just say there are 4 things that we're asking within the city of Pittsburgh. Just because people can come back to work doesn't mean you have to come back to work. If you're successful with your business and your workers telecommuting, please continue to telecommute. Downtown and Oakland in particular, but neighborhoods like the South Side and Lawrenceville and all throughout the city of Pittsburgh need a transition time, and the ability to be able to do your work at home, if it is something that you're able to do, is something that you should consider continuing to do. Number 2 is, I think, something that the county executive and Stefani said. As employers, consider shifts. Shift work could be that some workers come in on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and others come in on Tuesday or Thursday. It could be that some workers come in at 6 in the morning and others come in at 12 in the afternoon. It's whatever you need in order to make your company successful while minimizing the number of people that will be gathering in our largest, densest areas of Western Pennsylvania in the city of Pittsburgh. Number 3, use common sense. If you see a crowd in the lobby, don't go up and give everybody high fives. If the elevator's crowded, wait for the next one. Keep social distancing and make sure that it's part of your everyday plans as you go back to work. And number 4, to all employers, please follow all of the CDC's recommendations. Those are all in place to provide you a safe workplace and to provide your workers the opportunity to stay healthy. Thank you, and we look forward to welcoming everyone back to Pittsburgh.
Thanks, Mayor. And I think you give a really important message, because there are a number of businesses that have certainly been affected and won't be open under the yellow. And I think whatever success we have can allow some of these businesses, restaurants, barbershops, salons, others, to hopefully open up in the coming weeks if we're able to keep these numbers where they are. So I think that's a really important message. Next, I want to hear, we're going to hear from Matt Smith, the president of the Pittsburgh Chamber of Commerce. Also, Matt, working with Stefani, they represent, again, a lot of the businesses in southwestern Pennsylvania, particularly a lot of our large employers who will be trying to do this communication and do some of the mitigating strategies that Mayor talked about, spreading it out, elevators, not all getting on the elevator, social distance, all those kind of things. So Matt, please take a few minutes and send your message out there as well.
Thank you. And I really want to thank first and foremost the county executive for organizing this call and the work that you've done with the county health department. Dr. Bogen, thank you. I thank Mayor Peduto for your leadership. And then also Congressman Lamb and Congressman Doyle, that you all did in DC recently with the CARES Act, the multiple phases of the federal response, working in a bipartisan way. I really want to extend our appreciation to all of you. And I see my friend Darrin Kelly is going to be part of this event a little bit later. And I think that's a really good example of what I'm here to talk about. And that's the collaboration in our community that has allowed us to be in the position we are right now. We are proud to stand with all of our elected officials, with our friends in the labor community and the rest of our partners on this call today. Our region has a rich history of coming together to face challenges. We faced many as a region. We see that this phase in our history has been no different. Our people in the region came together and made a difference. They stayed home and they saved lives. And as we step into the next phase of this pandemic, it is going to be vital that we continue to work together with our public and private partners to chart a path that allows us to open our economy, and then has been said, as has been said multiple times, to stay open and then ultimately fully open in a smart, sustainable way. We need to stay open and ultimately, as I said, fully open, because we can do three things. We need to keep our residents safe. We need our economy to thrive. And we need to stay open and ultimately fully open. And we can do all three of those things by working collaboratively across the public and private sector and with our friends in labor. And I just want to close with one note. It's been noted a few times that two of the biggest things we can do, wearing masks and maintaining a distance, are going to be absolutely critical. And we view those things as a sign of strength, and in and of themselves, a sign of collaboration. Taking those individual actions, you are actually helping your neighbors, you're helping the most vulnerable among us, and you're also helping the region maintain the economy, and as I said, move from this phase to being fully open. And so those small items that day in and day out individuals can take are going to be absolutely critical to allowing us to maintain our economy and keep the economy fully open. So I want to again thank the county executive, thank all the elected officials for your work. It's been tremendous, and we look forward to continuing the collaboration with all of you as we move through the pandemic.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that. Next, we're going to hear from Doris Carson Williams. Doris represents the African American Chamber of Commerce, and obviously many of the businesses that also have been affected already and will continue to be affected, wanting to get the word out to her members and folks to basically reiterate the message of social distancing, masks, all the things that others have said. So Doris, please take a few minutes and get the word out to the members that you represent.
Thank you, Rich, and thank you for your leadership on pulling this together, and to our elected officials, Congressman Doyle and Lamb, and to our governor and the mayor for the work that you've done, because we have been successful in our region. To small business owners, and to quote the mayor, use common sense. We're asking our members to continue to wash their hands, wear their masks, and most importantly, if you can, work from home. let's continue on the safe path that we're on right now. And the chamber continues to work with our many partners who are represented here today. Matt Smith, Stefani Cashman, Audrey Russo. We work with them on a regular basis to learn the best practices for helping to move us into this yellow phase and to go beyond. So to small business owners, stay the course, continue to do what you do, but be safe and practice social distance.
Thanks, Doris. Next, we want to hear from Audrey Russo, the leader of the Pittsburgh of the Tech Council. Obviously, such a thriving and growing part of our economy over the last number of years has been all the technology that's grown and located here. And those folks obviously have a method of working in which they work in many ways in a close quarters as they share spaces together, and it'll probably be very challenging for some of those folks who have worked in such a incubator spaces and collaborative nature over the last number of years. And this change will certainly affect them very much. And I wanted to certainly have Audrey talk about to her members and to get the word out for the folks that she represents. Audrey?
Thank you, County Executive. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone else that's on this call. Really appreciate the leadership. And, just because, the government has provided us with a strategy around yellow and to be open doesn't mean that we shouldn't be so flagrant in terms of our protecting our most vulnerable. And very often we don't even know who those vulnerable are, but we've done a tremendous job in the region. But there are a few things. The tech community and the innovation economy have done really amazingly well over the last decade. And we're continuing to see growth. But there are a few things that really have affected all of us. One is remote work. Remote work, actually, we've always been ready for that. And so now we are seeing how efficient we really can be and continue to be for those of us that can work remotely, which mostly means working from home. We also have seen a great deal of support in our business community around creativity with leases and thinking about what it means to work in an open space and what we might have to do to shift that. And it could mean the kinds of things that County Executive articulated, and as well as the Mayor. What does it mean to stagger? What does that mean for the workforce? Particularly, thirdly, is that there is, a lot of our community is working with things, the information of things, and that they're connected to quote unquote stuff. They're working in labs, they're working in the field, they are doing user testing, and those things cannot really happen in a remote world. So we are hearing about very structured protocols that adhere to CDC guidelines, that adhere to the intention that the governor has and the Secretary of Health, as well as our Department of Health locally. So we are appreciative of that, and people are really paying attention to what that looks like for their work. And then lastly is the flexibility for all employers that are looking at ways to support their own vulnerable populations, because vulnerability is also tied to pre-existing conditions and things that many of us might not see. So on that note, I think that all of us that are on this call and those of us who are representing businesses locally and across the region know that we are forging ahead and we're doing an incredible job. But let's not forget that some that are vulnerable, we can't see to the naked eye. And really appreciate everyone's leadership. The tech community feels like this is a great place to continue to be and to work, and we will continue to attract the world to the problems that we're solving. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, Audrey. And last, but certainly not least, we're going to hear from Darrin Kelly, the president of the Allegheny Fayette Central Labor Council, AFL-CIO. Obviously, the workers are certainly affected most by this. Many of them who had to stay at home and not be able to go to work for the last couple of months. And as we go back to work, Darrin represents our first responders, our construction workers, public safety workers, healthcare workers, service workers, et cetera, who are on the front line of this and will be cleaning our buildings and making sure that these buildings are safe, et cetera. So I wanted to have Darrin be part of this as well, and his leadership throughout these last couple of months. They've been working the food banks, they've been giving out food, they've been just pitching in everywhere they can. So I want to have Darrin Kelly, President Kelly, say a few words as well. Darrin?
Thank you, County Executive Fitzgerald, and as always, thank you so much for not what you do just for labor, but for our region. So much of what we've done, we followed your lead, and it has put this area in such a better position than most of our country. But I think, and I'll know a lot of the prior speakers spoke to this, but it's so important to remind everyone why we are in this position. We're in this position because of the sacrifices that the men and women of this region have done. And we cannot say it enough that we must maintain that proactive approach of a region as we get ready to go. And everybody is excited, it's nervous excited, but now is the time. We're calling on employers to have their policies ready, get their workplaces ready. I am proud to say that we have very few complaints about some of the offices that have opened up or some of our construction sites, because it seems that everybody is maintaining that same approach. But as we move forward, we must, keep together as a region to realize that we have a chance to be, as we always say, ahead of the curve. In this situation, no more is it more true. So we are calling on everyone, workers, management, to keep the same approach. And as we go forward, let's let the rest of the country see us and what can happen. But it's so important that if we take a step back, how hard it's going to take for our region to rebound. We have our task forces. We want to keep our work sites safe, keep our employees on top of everything, and work with our employers to make it easier. So labor is proud to be partners with everyone on this call prior to this and post. And we're looking forward to the great things that this region is capable of accomplishing. And the only way we can do it is to stay together, and labor is proud to be a partner.
Thanks, Darrin. Appreciate that. And now we'll open it up. I know Amy Downs is going to be getting questions from the media, and then can distribute those to the appropriate personnel that the questions go to. Amy?
Sure. The first question we have is from KDK Television. As things open up across the country, we're seeing places ignoring physical distancing, restaurants allowing guests inside. How strictly will the guidelines be enforced here, and how?
Dr. Bogen, I'll maybe let you and the mayor and myself do that one. Dr. Bogen?
Sorry. So, in the health department, we're really taking the approach that people are doing what they're supposed to, and limiting our enforcement is really not where we want to put our focus. So we want to really be a positive influence on public health, and hopefully people will engage. In terms of enforcement, County Executive, I'm going to let you answer that one for us.
Well, I think it's important that I think a lot of this is going to be social pressure, because I think we have a lot of laws that, I don't want to say don't get enforced, but I always use the smoking example. You're not allowed to smoke in a lot of places, elevators, for example, or certain closed spaces. But we don't necessarily send law enforcement in there when somebody lights up a cigarette in an elevator. It's really the public that will kind of, influence a lot of what goes on. We'll certainly follow the guidelines of what the governor and his team want to do locally. I won't speak for the mayor, but I think the mayor probably has a lot of those same concerns. But we're just hoping most people will be cooperative, because it's in their best interest, the best interest of their family, the best interest of the community to be responsible as we go through this. Mayor?
Thanks, County Executive. We've been in this situation now for 8 weeks. We have avoided using our public safety in order to be able to write citations. What we have done is we have given warning. We have been able to utilize different methods in order to be able to deter those that would go against the orders coming from the state. And we will be supportive of the governor's comments yesterday. The governor made it clear that in the state of Pennsylvania, companies exist the will of state government. You have a license to operate within the state of Pennsylvania granted to you by the state government. And if you should decide to act during a state of emergency in ways against that, it will affect your ability to retain your license. It will you will be liable and not be insured by insurance by the state, and you could lose your business. You know, this is a time for us to be able to work together, to be able to understand that everyone is hurting from this, and to be able to try to find ways to minimize it, not be in a position to have to be punitive in order to be able to have people do what is the law.
You wanna-
Sure. This question is from the Pittsburgh Business Times. What have you heard among employers how they will be coming back to work? Is there an approach or some deciding not to come back right away and just continue to telework? How important is legal protection and liability regarding COVID-19 for companies to return?
I think I'll let Matt, Doris, or Audrey if you want to answer that one.
Unfortunately, it was very muted. I didn't have a chance to really hear the whole question.
I'm sorry, let me repeat that for you. But have you among employers as to how they're coming back to work? Is the phased approach, some deciding not to come back right away and just continue to telework? How important is legal protection for liability regarding COVID-19 for companies returning back to normal operations?
Again,
Okay.
four who want to take the answer from the business community.
Okay, hang on. My internet's unstable. Just gave me. You want to go to the next question? We'll come
I had
back to
trouble
that.
with the question as well.
Well, Stephanie, Matt, do you guys want, or Doris, do you want to take that up about the business community?
Yeah.
I had trouble picking that.
One of the things that we're hoping that businesses will do is think through their working space, how the offices are laid out, how people are sitting. You want to make sure that people are not close together. You want to make sure that if you can stagger the work days, that would be important right now. We have time on this and we want to get it right. So we encourage people to think about their workplace, do a plan for how the employees will reenter. But most importantly, if you can work from home, stay home. Stay home and make sure that that's effective.
Yeah, I would just add on to Doris's comments that I think the telework requirement is something that the business community and employers will take very seriously. It's directly tied to what everyone has mentioned here as one of the most paramount issues, which is maintaining distance, social distancing, and we know that works. And so I think that employers in the business community will do right by their employees and ensure where that is available, that continues to be an option. I think the last bit of the question, and I had trouble hearing it, was on the liability protection side of it. And this has been something that we've been advocating for at the state and the federal level to provide some assurance to the business community. But I think the important thing from our perspective that we've noted specifically is that those protections, those safe harbor protections, are very, very temporary and very, very targeted to this particular situation. And so we do think it's important, but that it is targeted and temporary.
Or Audrey wanted that question or able to weigh in. If not,
Yeah, the only other thing I'd add is that we surveyed about 350 businesses to try and ascertain their readiness and their willingness to come back to the workforce. And I'd say there were a few key issues that emerged from that. Number one, 100% of them are starting to prepare for the return and thinking about issues as Doris raised, like distancing, like Matt raised about teleworking, how they're going to manage their PPE supplies, their space, temperature checks, and all of the related public health issues. But the other piece is that they are also trying to ensure that their workers feel safe enough to return. And there are some concerns about the ability to convince workers to come in, convince customers to have the confidence to enter stores, and to also make sure that the workers are able to come back from furlough. So I think those workforce concerns that we're dealing with as well. And then the other piece I would say is that overall there's a desire for really clear, concrete guidance from particularly state officials as we think about how to reopen our workforces. So the more that we maintain the public-private partnership to understand guidances, understand rules, and know what businesses have to do to prepare, the more ready they will be to reopen their workplaces.
Next question is from the Post-Gazette. How will the city and county adjust their government operations as we move into the yellow phase? Will playgrounds be open in gatherings of less than 25 people? Will people wear masks and stay apart? Will box trash pickup in the city of Pittsburgh resume? What other things might we see as we move into the yellow phase?
Matt, I'll let you go first on that one.
Sure. There's a lot of things that are being asked on that. This Friday, we will be presenting the plan for our public spaces and events for the summer. That will include everything from our parks to the 4th of July. And we're still going through that, our departments, and I will be getting an update on that plan this afternoon. Bulk pickup will begin next week, and it's very important to remind people, don't put it all out on the first week. These are guys, these are human beings, and please space it out. Even though you've had the time to clear out the attic and clear out the basement, doesn't mean it all has to be on the sidewalk and keep one. Our workers will be there to take it away, but please be considerate of them and spread it out.
Yeah, and in many ways, we've been in yellow since the beginning as short workers. Obviously, try to have as many people work at home as they can. Our parks remained open in certain circumstances, and as we move into the summer months, there may be more programming that can be open, would be have physical distancing and can be safe. But many of the functions that we've been dealing with will continue under the yellow operation, and so under County Manager McCain will continue those operations.
The next set of questions is from multiple outlets, but relates specifically to measurements being done by the health department and Dr. Bogen. The Wolf administration has said that the goal is to test 2% of the population each month. What percentage of the county's population has been tested? Do we have capacity for contact tracing necessary? And have the rules on testing changed at all?
That was a lot of questions. Let's see. So in terms of contact tracing and case investigation, we do have a plan at the County Health Department to expand capacity through a small amount of hires and mostly through some volunteer work using our own staff and some student elective time. So we have a plan going forward to be able to flex up and down as we need to continue very careful case investigation and contact tracing. In terms of testing, we have definitely seen an expansion of testing throughout the county, and we're excited. We're putting on the final touches of a plan to have testing available through our federally qualified health centers. We'll hear about that later in the week. And so that is testing. And there was one more piece of the question, Amy, that I don't recall.
Have the rules on testing changed?
Yeah. So if you look back to months ago, the testing recommendations have certainly changed, but not in the last few weeks. The last few weeks, we've really been encouraging everyone to test anyone with symptoms, anybody who healthcare workers. It used to be really limited to people with risk factors, but now it's anybody with symptoms should get tested. And I think that's actually really important. As we go back to work, we want to have availability of testing so that the employers can send anyone who they're concerned about to get testing quickly. And I think that will keep us open if we can be responsive to that. And that's our aim, is to make sure that we have enough testing available in our community to be responsive to that change as it happens.
This next question is for Congressman Lamb from WTAE. Do you agree with the Congressional Coronavirus Oversight Committee that a steel fabricator in Bridgeville should return a $10 million oral protection loan? In general, is it appropriate for large public companies to get these loans?
The question was a little bit choppy, but I think I understand the spirit of it. I want to challenge the premise a little bit in that I think what the Oversight Committee did was ask companies like Universal either to return the money or to explain why they needed it. I thought that the choice of Universal in that list was surprising. And I have joined with 3 other legislators who have a presence with Universal in their district to help explain to the committee why Universal was a good candidate for that loan, which includes the fact that they have almost 600 United Steelworkers, union members among their employee base. And the steel that they make is mostly for airplanes and oil rigs, 2 businesses that are really going to be struggling for the next couple of years. And so it might have been a mistake, at some level to choose them of all the possible companies and wrongdoers in America. And we're doing what we can to clear that up.
Next question is from KDKA. Will anchor stores and those with exterior entrances at malls be allowed to reopen?
I can take that one. My understanding is that those anchor stores, malls are open. They to yellow and operate. Internal stores and malls themselves will not be open. So businesses that operate inside of a mall have to do deliveries outside, or people can come to the parking lot, can order and take things out. But most themselves will not be open to yellow than the anchor stores that have their own separate entrances.
The next question is that what are officials doing to assist healthcare facilities to make sure as many of them reopen as possible?
Dr. Bogen, can I give that one to you?
I think I heard the question, but again, there's a lot of garbled sound. It was a question about working with healthcare organizations to stay open?
Yes.
Yeah, the healthcare organizations have been, again, the chief medical officers have been meeting every week and discussing strategies to make sure that they have adequate testing available and PPE. And I think that really is the key to keeping our healthcare facilities open, is having good policies and procedures for screening people, placing them in rooms quickly. And all of the healthcare facilities have really been working on their strategies to open and expand care very carefully over the last couple of weeks. They've been very proactive. And again, I don't make those decisions with them, but I listen on their calls, and they're really being very careful and thoughtful on that. So I think with their plans, we will see an expansion of access to medical services over the next little bit.
This is the last question for Dr. Bogen again. What timetable would you expect to see an aftershock increase in cases after the opening on Friday? When will we know if there's a problem? And if there is, will the opening be walked back?
Yeah, so we're going to track very closely the number of cases that we are getting reported. We are tracking emergency room visits. So do we see an increase in influenza-like or other illnesses? We are also going to closely follow hospitalization rates because that's a really good indicator of the amount of illness in our community. And fortunately, right now, our COVID cases are very low, which is wonderful. So those are the things we're going to track. And again, our guidance will change if we see a rapid rise in cases. but I'm optimistic that people are going to really follow our directions and continue to wear face masks and do all the things we've asked so that our numbers can remain low.
I want to thank, first of all of our participants today. I want to thank our elected officials, Congressman Doyle, Congressman Lamb, Mayor Peduto, for being just great leaders and partners throughout this pandemic. Also, Darrin Kelly, thank you for on behalf of all the men and women that you represent throughout the region and have been, doing such yeoman work to keep us safe. And then our business community, Stefani, Pashman, Matt Smith, Doris, Carson, Williams, and Audrey, Russo, all working together and all the members that they represent and the folks can take lead and where we are. Until we have a vaccine or until we have a cure, we're going to have to practice all these mitigating strategies to keep families, our community, and everybody safe in this region. So this, I use the analogy, the baseball analogy, even though there's no baseball being played right now. In a 9-inning game, we're only about the second inning. We need to continue to work together, not rest our laurels, keep doing the strategies we've been doing, and thank everybody for the work that they've been doing. Thank you, Dr. Bogen. Folks, of course, keep doing the great work they're doing and give us the good advice to keep us safe. Thanks, everybody.